let's talk about what's happening in China's Inner Mongolia. A new education policy is rolling out across the grasslands. And while it might sound like a simple tweak to the curriculum, it has absolutely lit a fuse. We're seeing protests, fear, and a really intense debate about what it means to protect a culture and an identity. So to get what's really at stake here, we need to dive in and take a closer look. I want to start with this really powerful warning from a Mongolian studies expert, Professor Yang Tegisbayer. His words just cut right to the chase. The fear isn't just about changing a few classes. It's that this new policy, which is supposed to create bilingual students, could actually do the exact opposite, leaving a generation of kids stuck in the middle without a full mastery of any language. So what's actually going on? Well, it all kicked off in late 2020. An official document about a new plan for so-called bilingual education started circulating, and for the Mongol population, the reaction was immediate and it was intense. The response was swift, and it came from all sides. In big cities like Hoha and Ordos, parents started organizing school boycotts. You had scholars writing these critical articles only to watch them get censored and just disappear from the internet. Social media groups where people were talking about this shut down. And behind the scenes, you had authorities reportedly telling teachers and parents to just keep quiet. This quickly became more than a debate. It was a clampdown. Okay, so what is this policy that's causing such an uproar? Well, it all boils down to a pretty fundamental shift in when and how kids learn Mandarin Chinese in schools that have, for a long time, taught primarily in Mongolian. Let's break it down. Under the old system, if you were in a Mongolian language school, you'd start learning Mandarin in the 3rd grade. And this is key, it was often taught using Mongolian. Now, look at the new system. Mandarin starts right from day 1 in 1st grade. And it's taught in Mandarin using these nationally standardized textbooks. It's a total shift from building on a mother tongue foundation to a much, much earlier immersion in Mandarin. And get this, it's not just one class. The plan is to phase this in over 3 years, systematically replacing Mongolian as the language used to teach core subjects. It started with language and literature in 2020, then came politics and morality in 2021, and finally, history in 2022. So you can see, this isn't about adding a class, it's about replacing the language of instruction itself. As you can imagine, this policy has basically created 2 completely different narratives about what bilingualism even means, and what this change is really trying to accomplish. Critics, like Professor Yang, who we heard from at the start, are making some really serious arguments. They say, look, this violates China's own constitution, which is supposed to guarantee equality for ethnic minority languages. They believe it weakens a child's education in their own language, which creates that risk of them becoming semilingual. And on a really practical level, they're worried that these students will be at a huge disadvantage when it comes to the all-important university entrance exams, which are in Mandarin. Now, the government tried to calm the situation by releasing an official statement. But their explanation focuses very narrowly on the Mongolian language class itself. They reassured people that the hours, the textbooks, the system for that one specific subject, they're not changing. Essentially, the message is, hey, we're not taking away Mongolian. We're just adding more Mandarin. But for so many people, this isn't some technical debate about curriculum hours. No, this strikes right at the heart of their culture and who they are. This is deeply personal. This quote from a retired teacher just says it all. The traditional Mongolian script, written top to bottom, is the only one like it in the world that's still in active use. That is a massive source of pride. And for this teacher, the new policy felt like a real lack of respect for that tradition and a huge underestimation of how deeply people feel about their language. And then you hear stories like this one, which offers a powerful case for the old system. Here's a guy working for a company fluent in 4 languages, Mongolian, Mandarin, English, and Swedish. And he says that having that strong foundation in his mother tongue, Mongolian, is exactly what made it easier for him to learn other languages later. For him, the old system wasn't a barrier. It was a bridge to the rest of the world. To really get why the reaction has been so strong, you have to look back. For a lot of Mongolians in the region, this new language policy doesn't feel like an isolated event. Instead, it feels like it's ripping open old wounds and tapping into some very deep historical fears. Two historical moments are absolutely crucial to understand here. First, during the Cultural Revolution, there was a violent political purge called the Digging Out Campaign. It caused unimaginable suffering and left behind these lasting ethnic tensions. Then, in 1981, a government directive known as Document 28 made it easier for Han Chinese to migrate into the region. Many Mongolians saw this as a threat to their homeland, and it sparked the biggest student protests the region had seen in decades. So you've got this historical trauma rooted in a fear of both political violence and cultural erasure. An activist named Tem Siltu, who is actually a leader of those 1981 protests, calls them a milestone. After all the trauma of the purges, this was the moment that reawakened a sense of Mongolian identity and a consciousness about their rights. For a whole new generation, it was a defining moment. And that brings us right back to today and to our final, really critical question. In 1981, the fight that galvanized our generation was about land and demographics. Today, the battleground seems to have shifted to language and the classroom. So we're left to wonder, in this age of social media and global connection, could this fight over a language policy become the next great milestone event that redefines Mongolian identity for the 21st century?